Okay,
Okay,
there we
we are live
go. I
now.
see it's
We are live.
live.
So, intro. Five, four, three, two, one. Next.
We are back. We are back. I don't think we need to do the formalities again. Yeah, sorry, we just had a technical difficulty there. We just dropped Mr. Steve, but he's back with us. Thank God. And without further ado, we should just jump into Steve. Steve was telling us who Steve Casting is to the person who doesn't know him.
Yeah, how's it, Nico? And thanks. Yes, in a nutshell, I'm not just the crazy guy on social media that takes pictures of beautiful women and things like that. But in a nutshell, I'm a commercial photographer by trade and someone that specializes through my academy shooting high-speed syncs. I have a lot of students around, which I'm sure we'll get to. But yeah, I'm just Steve.
Oh, all right. Okay, cool. So, how did Steve get into photography? I mean, obviously, there must be something that sparked your interest in studying playing around with cameras. So, was it something you were born with, played around in high school, or something you discovered after high school?
It's an interesting question, and not everyone knows the story, and you're the first one to actually bring it up. I always enjoyed photography, but more what I thought was, wildlife. I have a father that was loved the bush. As my family, we loved the bush, and we would go and happy snappy. But where it transitioned into something more serious, I owned the public license of a certain men's magazine, and
Oh, I wonder which one.
yeah, no, we can say it. I owned the
Yeah.
public license for Playboy SA, which meant I was paying Chicago Direct for the proprietary rights of the Rabbit Head and the Playboy Playmate and any parties happening with that. But more importantly, moving back to the photography, we had to cast models for the centerfold, and I then brought in photographers to shoot. And these guys were great. They really were. So no disrespect to them. I really enjoyed them, but they never saw my vision. And at the time, I was my background is with motion picture and lighting and art direction. So I knew exactly what to put into the set. I knew how to conceptualize and visualize the storyboard, but I didn't have the technical background to pick up the camera and necessarily compose. So I started playing with this, and I slowly transitioned. And this, guys, wasn't so long ago. So to answer your question, no, Nico, I was hardly at school, man. I didn't even know what a camera was. We
Yeah.
don't. That's another story. But so from the Playboy days, so in 2011 to 2013. So 2013, I really said, you know what, I'm going to give this a bash. I'm going to buy myself a flash and get a camera. And when I tell you, I was crappy beyond all notes. I can tell you,
Yeah.
when I look back at the images, none of you will see those images because they're really shocking. And then slowly it started transitioning. So I would say, to answer your question, I started taking it quite seriously. I thought quite seriously 2013 onwards.
So you're relatively a new photographer for the type of work that you produce. I mean, your work is beyond amazing. How did you move from your struggles? What were your struggles when you started off up to to eventually get to a point where you say, you know what, now I know what I'm doing, and this is how my work is perfect. No, judge me on what I produced today and last year, and not what in 2013. What were your struggles when you started out?
Yeah, Nick, I think the struggle started. One of my biggest challenges is I thought I was better than what I was. And I think, until I overcame that, and that is when, so my biggest challenge was me thinking I was better because again, I understand and I could visualize what I wanted. I had unlimited the best professional, the most prettiest models, everything at my disposal, unlimited resources when it came to sets and studios and whatnot. But first challenge, I thought I was better than what I was. Second challenge was to overcome that, and humble myself. And I was always, believe it or not, I'm seen as an arrogant person. However, well, in the early days, but I'm incredibly humble where I can sit and go to a photographer who will address soon and ask them for help. And I've got this creative process that's brilliant. I know it is. Not understanding the camera, not understanding actual depth of field, not understanding apertures, the correct exposure triangle correctly. I would just pick up the camera and point it and shoot. So that was also was a challenge for me. So I had to sort of step outside my own egotistical bubble and look in and say, okay, Steve, a reset. And once I reset, that's why I am new to the photography game, and I know my work. I know the standard of my work. It's not always great, but that allowed me to be very aggressive in this process, to say from taking images, substandard images, to much better images. And it was a mindset, Nico, not necessarily me going on workshops.
Yeah. So is your photography self-taught, or did you? I mean, you had classes or workshops that you attended, or maybe you can elaborate on.
No, absolutely all self-taught. Again, I looked within. I compared myself. I'm highly critical with my work, highly critical, and I can tell you, I've yet to take the perfect photograph. I don't think I ever will, but.
I've seen some few perfect ones.
You'll see. But to answer your question, no, I haven't attended any workshops at all. What I have done, I've humbled myself and I've spoken to my fellow peers. And still today, I will ask for advice. I learn from my students. I learn from everyone. So no workshops, self-taught. I don't do the YouTube thing. I'm not saying you mustn't. I'm not a big fan of it. So I believe in a saying, failing forward, meaning I'm going to go out, I'm going to take the shot, I'm going to come back, I'm going to reference the shot to one of my peers. I didn't get it right. I'll phone him up and say, hey, man, how do you take this picture? Go back, shoot the shot, come back again until I get it right.
Yeah, okay. You've spoken about getting help from other photographers and your peers. Who influenced you? Who influences you the most to date, and who influenced you when you decided you want to become humbled and get advice from other photographers? Who are your most influences in the beginning and now?
Okay, a life changer for me, absolute life changer was me meeting. In fact. A photographer called Ray Mangata. He's from the Congo.
Yes.
Ray?
Yeah.
From El Ray. So I can tell you that was the pivotal point for me. Ray contacted me because I did a shoot, and an horrific, horrible shoot with one of the Playboy Playmates on my yacht. And I thought these images were great. And Ray's so humble, but he phoned me and said, listen, I would love to do a shoot at this location. I said, well, it's my yacht and you can come and absolutely shoot. I actually wasn't there. I couldn't make it. And Ray went, got permission, and he did the shoot. And Nico, when I tell you, he put out 3-4 images, okay? And I got to tell you something about Ray Mangata. He's the most humble man I've ever met in my life. Okay. And the pioneer of shooting in shallow depth of field with ND filters and high-speed sync before anyone in fact, Ray, we all know Danny Diamond, who I'll talk about now. Danny Diamond writes in F-Stoppers saying, one day when I die, I would like to have shot like Ray. So, so Ray was the one who I definitely was my mentor. I'm blessed enough that I'm creative enough to pick up very quickly as to what he taught me in his own way. And so people who influence me, who's current, who is actually local, he spent a long time in Pretoria and he spent a lot of work here in South Africa, but he is now back in the Congo. But he's still today, I spoke to him last week, he influences me from an international point of view in my style of photography with what you used to. I'm very influenced by Danny Diamond. I believe his natural light work is brilliant. Locally, I can expand very quickly. I've got past students, DJ Busang, brilliant. Emmy Boy, who has just exceeded past expectations, has grown. And believe it or not, Emmy, he's someone I look at and admire because not just his imagery. It hasn't been easy for Emmy, and he's pushed through and constantly learning. So these are the guys and there's a lot. There's a lot of guys. There's guys I work with, my fellow ambassadors. Their work is brilliant. So it's too many to mention.
Yeah. All right. You mentioned quite a lot of names. Very big names heavy in our crowds. When it comes to collaborations, do you now and again collaborate on a certain shoot for a project or a paid project, or do you only do collaborations for your own concepts? And how does that work? The image rights and things like that, and how do you come around to let me find this person to collaborate with, and what did you see in their style of photography that you wanted to collaborate with them?
Yeah. Okay, the word collaboration is tricky and it can be defined in so many ways. Obviously now, in the past, yes, I used to collaborate, but it was more about me showcasing something. So it's either with the Sigma Ambassador brand or Godox and bringing photographers in. And it's generally my set, my lighting setup. So the collaboration became non-viable for me. Where the collaboration works for me is, and it's not the word collaboration. The only time I have a photographer on my set is when I've paid him. So it's a commercial work. So recently we did the Gold Reef City brand campaign. I brought in my son Aiden, who was my second shooter. And having said that, he's not shooting behind me. He had projects to go and shoot, and so did I. And then I brought in for a day a photographer called Tim Mulman. He's a Fujifilm ex-photographer. And I brought Tim in for a reason, because it was the theme park day. I needed his documentary style of photography. I wanted it, and I paid Tim. Once I paid Tim, he's done. He leaves set, and it's done. All that work, from a licensing point of view, it's the client's imagery. From a social media licensing point of view, it's a Steve Castings production. And he knows that if I have to showcase my commercial work on one of his images, I would then credit him. Thanks for the great image by Tim Mulman. But the umbrella corporation would be my brand.
Okay. All right. Okay. Cool. No, that's interesting. You are known for a very heavy setup when it comes to sets. I mean, I've seen you work a few times in a few of the model days. Some that you hosted and some that you were part of. What do you bring to a setup? What determines what gear you need to bring to a setup to capture your images? You get you got laptops and lights there, and you got music playing all around, and it's just boom boom. Everybody just wants to sit there and watch you do some work. So what do you decide to bring on a certain shoot, or how do you determine that? Maybe Marv can just show through a few slides as well on the photographer setups there as you talk to us, Steve.
Okay, absolutely. Look, firstly, Nico, the open days you've seen me on, it's showmanship. Okay, it's not necessarily technically correct in that sense. I'm blessed to have a lot of gear, and I'm paid to provide a lot of gear, and for guys like yourself and other photographers to have an opportunity to see the gear. So firstly, open days is a lot of showmanship. So we'll talk what's in my bag if that's the question you're asking.
Yeah, sure. Well, what is in your bag? I'm quite intrigued because now you've got two different systems going there in terms of camera bodies and things like that. But yeah, feel free to jump into that as well as you talk about the showmanship.
So the showmanship requires, minimum 3 to 4 light setup. I'm a big fan of my gels. I'm a big fan of rim lighting, so backlighting. So I will always rock up with my Pelican case, which is a 1650. It contains 4 lights. It's two 8600 Pros, which are Godox Pros, and 8400, 8600 BMs, 8200s on ADB2 brackets. So, and really overkill, Nico. C stands, 4 of them. So we've got a lot of C stands because we've got them. Music's very important. I get frowned upon. I'm not a conservative person. I'm not going to mention one of the open days I went to. I had music playing very, very loud, and the genres to my left and right. So there's a lot of you yourself know the open days. There's a lot of photographers working in each other's space. All the genres were the same. So the music wasn't heavy metal. It was commercial pop. Everyone, it's music. And I got complaints. Can you turn the music down? Now, for me, I give them the finger, man. I say, well, I'm not interested, and that's who I am. So music does play an important role. It helps ease the creative process. It helps ease your creative team. And it puts the model at rest, because what you don't know is that the music playing is my model's playlist. So, and she's happy. So yes, I generally shoot with a 3 to 4 light setup. But mentioning open days, it's more showmanship. Getting to what's in my bag, I started shooting with Nikon D800. And then I moved over.
Very beautiful camera.
Yeah, absolutely stunning. For me, I'm going to tell you, a camera is a camera is a camera. I've got zero, and I'm going to say this openly and proudly, zero loyalties to any camera brand anywhere. Locally or internationally, I don't care. I've got no loyalties to them. I will work with their brand and their brand that works for me. So, yes, film, I shoot with the GFX 50S. Which is a medium format Fujifilm system. And my go-to lens is the 110 f2. So in SLR language, it's actually an 87mm f1.6. Okay. The camera is very tricky to shoot with. It's got no built-in stabilization. So you need to look at, it's a camera designed. You see I shoot with it freehand off the tripod. It's really, I will own this camera for the rest of my life. I will never outgrow this camera. As of recently, last year, I had to move over to a full frame camera. And my choice of camera was a Sony A7 R4, which has just been released towards the end of last year. And Nico, the main focus there was my rekindle relationship with Sigma. And I adapt their E-mount art lenses. So I only used Fast primes. So my Sigma lenses, my go is a 105 f1.4. I then have an 85 f1.4, f1.4, a 35 f1.2, a 1424 f2.8, and a 70-200 S, which is the Sigma Sports Range f2.8. Am I missing out one of them? No, that's about it.
Yeah. Do you find having so much gear does it hinder you in terms of when it comes to your page shoot to say, okay, I've got all this gear, how long does it take you to find out which is the correct lens that you want to use for that specific things? Does it hinder your production, your productive workflow, or going into that shoot that, okay, for this shot I'm going to use a 40, for this shot I'm going to use an 85 or a 50 and things like that?
Yeah, it's only going to hinder you if you haven't prepared your storyboard correctly. That's the only time when confusion's going to set in. Generally, if you're asking me, Steve, do you walk onto set with all your lenses? Absolutely. There's no excuse for, on a commercial set, there's no excuse for too much light. There's no excuse for having too many lenses. However, understand, and on a commercial set, we would have a shot list. I would know, and let's talk about, let's say, my Zanzibar work. I spent like 40 days in Zanzibar. I knew I was.
Sorry, Marv, if you could just bring that up. I think it's slide number 26 and 27 and 28 and 29, so they can see as Mr. Steve is going through this. Yeah.
Okay, so, for Zanzibar, if I was going to go into the rooms and shoot the rooms, I would be in my room. I would select a 24-70 or 35 or 50. So I would have that variable. So I've got that. But I've already seen the room, Nico. I've done a recce. I've taken the correct focal length already for my test shots. I then wake up the next morning and I know what I need. So I don't need to carry my full bag. And this follows on to anything you're doing. So on a set, I've got a think tank that takes most of my gear, but also I'm only insured for a specific amount. I'm not insured. Insurance costs a lot of money. So I can't take all my lighting gear and all my cameras and lenses onto one set because I have a cap, obviously, and that's my affordability. So you will find preparing, I know I'm going to need my 40 and my 85. 85 to 105, very, very similar. So if I have the workspace, I would opt for the 105. So no, it doesn't hinder me because I prepare myself.
Okay, and you always should tell that. Why is that? I mean,
I can tell you now, it's quite an embarrassing thing. I don't actually own SD cards. You won't find them in my camera. I don't own them because I don't pick up my camera to Happy Snap. No, I don't own. My son owns all the fancy SD cards because so I don't shoot with them. When I have one in the camera, it's my son's. So the tethering side, I believe every single camera lies to you. You look at the back of your screen. That is an enhanced JPEG version of what the camera wants you to see. It is not what you are seeing. And I don't believe any photographer, look, I understand wedding photographers and run and gun and events, you can't be tethered. But anything commercial and any sort of creative collaboration in studio, you should tether. That is what you are seeing. Okay, how many times, and I can ask the viewers, how many times have you done a whole shoot? You get back home, you download into Lightroom or Camera Raw or whatever program you're using, and you're looking at images that are totally different to the images you saw on the back of your camera. And then you end up losing the shoot. Okay, so yes, I'm a believer in tethering. I use Capture One software. It is the best software to tether with. I'm not a believer of Lightroom at all. Lightroom was not designed to tether. It's too slow. And also coming back from, reason why I use Capture One is the Sony is about 128 to 135 megabyte raw file, and the Fuji can get up to quite similar. And I need speed, and Capture One is designed for phase one Hasselblad, which are pushing big images.
All right, Marv, do you want to just tell us who's in the chat room and who's asking questions as we digest all this wealth of information from Mr. Casting? I think that's where I saw the comment. I saw the comment pop up when he was talking about Playboy. I think we'll save that question for later. I think we've got a segment for that. Yeah, I'll just grab it. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Oh, Bokri. That's our friend there, Bokri at and Cap Media as well as Nick. Yeah. Okay. I think we're just gonna just cut it there and then just move on with the interview. Um, all right. Yeah. Okay. We spoken about collaborations, but there's one part that I forgot, Steve. In you I watched a talk your talk at last year's expo, and you were talking about the Harley Quinn project with Nikki Duplessis. Do you want to talk more into that, because I have a few questions that I want to ask on that. How did you come up with the concept? From what I understand, it was a project that you funded, and it ended up being picked up and got published into I think, was it Good Light magazine, if I'm not mistaken?
Okay, yeah. Firstly, yeah, no, I didn't fund it. Yeah, that
Mm.
one I didn't fund. That one came about with regards to GPB batteries, which is for Godox SA. So leading up to the photo and video expo, their whole brand campaign was of splash of color, and the photo and video was my superhero. So there was a lot of things happening around cosplay. So at the time, yes, Dean, who's the owner, and Tara, who heads up the marketing side, said, Steve, what can we do for Splash of Color? And then the superhero came in. So I said, well, let's do cosplay. Obviously, I had done quite a lot of, I'd done Phoenix, I'd done Rogue, Storm, I'd done the Wonder Woman. So Harley was always sitting there. And as I've explained before to my viewers, is that Harley, my relationship with Nikki stems back over 5 years. And the Suicide Squad had been out before, and a lot of people asked me, why haven't you shot Nikki with Harley? So, I waited because I didn't want to bastardize social media, and I just found it was just flooded. And again, like I've always explained, I also choose my cosplay concepts around a large media event, meaning the movie Bird of Prey was going to come out. So yes, Godox SA funded it. It was their campaign
Okay.
designed for photo and video. I
Mm.
then put the creative team together, which is the body
Mm.
painting, the makeup
Mm.
artist, which was Cindy Lee van Dyke, body
Mm.
painter being Charles Bub, and obviously cast.
Did we lose Steve again? Or please tell me we didn't lose Steve again. Marv, are you there? Okay, we think we just lost Steve again. All right, seems to be quite challenging. This seems to be quite challenging, and we're just getting into the meat of the interview. We're not going to cut out this time. We need to go on. We need to somehow find him again. Yeah, Bokri, Bokri. Yeah. From Matsi Deti. Yeah. Yeah. Mav, they can't hear you. Mav, they can't hear you.
Oh, we're back.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
okay,
we're
we're
back.
back. Yeah, okay,
Okay,
cool.
so
We've got Steve back. Yeah, sorry, we was
yeah,
talking about Harley Quinn. Yeah,
okay, so yes, I'm not too sure where you lost me there, but so the Harley Quinn,
you were telling that Godox funded it, and you put up a team together to collaborate with the project.
yes, and the team consisted of awesome makeup artist Cindy Lee van Dyke, who I use in all my shoots now. The talented Nikki Duplessis. We shot it at Tiago Nazareth Studio, which is a commercial space in Benoni, and the body painting by Charles Bub.
Okay, you still there? All right. Okay. If you can you hear me, Steve?
I can hear you. I've
Oh,
got you
okay,
good
cool.
sound.
All right, cool. You mentioned that you had to commission a somebody to edit this project. What was the reason for outsourcing the editing, and why not do it yourself? And what did it cost at the end of the day versus to what the whole project that you wanted to do? I mean, was it part of the budget? And let's also talking about external editing. I mean, collaborations with teams. Talk to me as well about your relationship with Nikki Duplessis, because you do quite a lot of work with her. How did you decide to that she's going to be your muse, she's going to be your model for most of these projects? Do you not get tired of working with her, having gone so many years working the same project, and as well to the new models that you keep on finding and starting new projects with?
Okay. Yeah. So, do you have audio on my side, Nico?
Yes, I hear you quite fine.
Good.
Mav, are we good?
So, no, we're good.
Okay.
Okay, so I think let's talk about the post-processing work. It's way beyond my expertise. I believe in a creative team, and any commercial work, you have a stylist, you have a makeup artist, you have even a lighting specialist sometimes. So you can't be the jack of all trades. So without any doubt, I was always going to outsource that, purely because from a timing, but more from an expertise point of view, I don't have that ability to do that type of composite work. But keep in mind, it is my creative team. It's my visualization. It's what I want. So I brief everyone. It's in my head, and it needs to be done so. With regards to working with Nikki, yes, I've been asked this question quite a few times. I can tell you, I don't do portfolio work. You can come and pay me all the money in the world. If you don't fit my style of photography, I say no. So, because I control my brand. So basically, I'm just going to move this a bit this way. Okay. Sorry, you're getting a bit blinded. Sorry. So where I'm placed with Nikki's, and there's a circle of trust. First of all, Nikki also works for Godox SA as a brand ambassador. So we use Nikki on all our road shows. We have a very good relationship and a trusting relationship. She's also very experienced. And quite frankly, Nico, I just don't have the patience to train up another model. Just trying to move this here. Sorry. Okay, I'm just moving my monitor, but there we go. Yeah, so getting back to it, I spend a lot of time with models. I've worked before with Candace Sills, Jamie Robinson. There's not a lot of models from 2017 onwards. You'll see I've only maybe worked with five models. Okay. I don't. So do I get tired of shooting Nikki? No. Is it beneficial? No, it's not either, because my range is only of one person. But remember, I'm not trying to sell myself as a photographer anymore. Okay, I'm selling brands. I sell the Sigma Art brand. I sell Godox brand. So I need to work with someone that understands me, that knows me, and that is in my circle of trust. Okay, and so the images we take is all for road shows, all for branding purposes. It's not for building my portfolio. Is there a negative? Absolutely. To the point where the other day, I had to shoot someone I hadn't really shot. It's like didn't flow well. And because I'm so used to working with one person, whereas in the past I worked with a lot of people. So there are negatives, but for me, the positives outweigh the negatives.
So when say for instance you're shooting for Zanzibar or something like that, and they need a model, and you propose that I work with this person, Nikki du Plessis in this case, do you find that some of your clients say, you know what, we've seen too much of that work with you and her, can you try somebody else, or can we bring in our own suggestions?
Yeah, look at the commercial work. For instance, if you pull up the slides from the Gold Reef City shoot where I was shooting, which Nikki was involved in as well, because she fitted the role right. But the lead female, we used a model called Jamie C. Scott, who's a colored girl, so she's cappuccino.
Yeah, I'm off that slide 34 up to 39. Okay, yeah, sorry, go on.
Okay. So, but again, my background is, again, a casting agency. I was involved in one of South Africa's largest casting agencies. So I actually cast 50% of the talent on my commercial shoot. So again, I had worked with Jamie. Getting back to, when I went to Zanzibar, we didn't bring in models because there's no budget, believe it or not. So we use the staff members. And yes, but that's more lifestyle. It's not less glamour, more lifestyle. And that's where my personality comes through, where I can pose them and I can set them. Because, again, my background is art direction, and that's dealing with people, putting them into situations that best complement the shoot and the lighting setup. So yeah, I hope I answered that sort of correctly.
Yeah. You spoke a lot about brand. Who is Steve the brand? How did you decide to be known as this type of a person? What were the struggles of building the brand to where you are? We all know Steve as the Godox ambassador, the Sigma Art ambassador, and you are very particular in what you do. Like you were just being specific that you want something and this is how you want it. For a new person like me who's getting into photography, how does one become a newcomer? So the brand. Now, anytime you mention Steve, everybody assumes Steve Castings because we know Steve Castings as the brand, and we associate Steve Castings with a certain type of work, a body of work.
Yes. My advice would be, I'll talk about my challenges. My challenges where I went wrong, and then you must learn from that, is that going back to the men's publication, I started a brand for myself that I had large-scale agencies picking up on it through the publication, saying, Steve, we are going to make you the Hugh Hefner of SA. That's what we want to do. So all images captured, everything you do, we want 8 Playboy models hanging around you at all times, right? We want party guy. We want something just pushing the boundaries. And I stuck to that. I did falter a little bit because I turned around and I went, it's actually not who I am. But the public side needed to see that. And it was very stereotyped, and I stuck with it. And I'm going to get to the point, I then moved over to a camera brand, which I had to cut that off. And that was me not staying true to who I was. Steve is the guy that drinks the tequila on set. Steve is the guy that cares nothing for proximity rules. Steve is the guy that slaps the model on the bum. But understand the backstory to it is that particular model is my best friend. We do everything together. It's not a paying set. I discussed this last week on my commercial shoots. My clients are trying to drown me in tequila. And I'm saying no. These are my big clients. So no alcohol on sets when I'm getting paid. So building that brand, I let go of who I was and my brand, and it hurt me a bit. So coming back to it, last year I've started again. I've managed to align myself with brands now that want to see the fun side of photography.
Okay.
Godox SA. Please believe me, guys. The brands are very important to me, and I need to. Everything is permissions, guys. We're going to be doing this. Your brand will be in this image, but understand this is how it came about, and so they've accepted that as Steve, the fun guy. Getting to imagery, visualization. I know I don't watermark my images. I don't need to. Even prior to shooting a lot with Nikki, my earlier work with other models, it became very distinctive of my style of photography. And still today, I know I could put an image out.
We there? We seem to be struggling a little bit with our Skype call today. Okay, he is there. He's there. Just hang on. Maybe just let it rebuffer. Yeah, just need to rebuffer. Steve, we just
emulating me.
There we go.
I can see
got
that.
it back.
So they emulating me. Oh, guys. Can I switch to another network quickly?
Yeah, sure. Okay. While he does that, we're just going to show some of the slides from the Playboy shoots. Marv, if you could just go, I gave you a list. I just sent you a list now from slide 44 and going on while we wait for Steve to switch network. Steve, you'll tell us when you come back. Yeah. Okay. Are you back, Mr. Steve? Still not. Okay. We've got listeners from the chat room. We've got Silo, my guru. We've got Kendi Mo saying great to hear about Steve's story that we normally don't hear. Personally, after a couple of years of not shooting studio, I've tried again after attending one of his open days. Okay, so that's great comment over there. We've got a nice comment there from Kaiser Tsetla saying, "Bra Steve, lots of questions here. Do you think the photography industry is saturated? Is getting saturated and more competitive?" I think that's a beautiful question. Steve, did you hear that question from Kaiser? Yeah, I think we can hear you now. Marv, can we hear him? Oh, yeah. Kaiser's just asking a nice, interesting question here from the chat room, saying, do you think that the photography market in South Africa is getting too much saturated? And how do you handle the competition, you know?
Yeah, listen, absolutely. Again, from me, it doesn't affect me with regards to having a problem with competitive issues with regards to portrait photography. Let's say I put my business and my photography out there to say I'm going to shoot portraits for X amount, and then I look and there's sort of quoting and their imagery is similar. I can tell you I'm one of the culprits. I am one of the culprits with regards to that, because over the last 2 years, I have probably single-handedly had maybe over 700 people listening to my talks, and wanting to shoot exactly the way I shoot, which is, guys, it's a good base. But you've got to be able to learn certain lighting techniques and then move on. Where the congestion does come, Nico, is that we're all starting to look very similar. Okay, and there was a saying, and the only reason is, it's not me talking big, the only reason is I started with this. I was one of the photographers that started shooting in this type of photography, this shallow depth of field and that soft, creamy look, very soon, before everyone else. So now you'll find a lot of photographers out there wanting to shoot because it is a worldwide trend, but then they stay on that same platform. And that is very congested at the moment.
Yeah, all right. Okay, no, that's interesting. Okay, now going back to the topic at hand, you as the brand, you were talking about aligning yourselves with people or with brands that you want to work with. Talk to us about your relationship with Sigma and Godox and why those two, and why not another brand, for instance, not another lens brand, not another lighting brand.
Okay, I think firstly, again, I in the early days, this was the early days, I was a Sigma ambassador, and when I moved over to Fujifilm, I had to sever that relationship because Fuji have native glass, so they can't. There's no cross pollination between Sigma and Fujifilm. So part of that agreement becoming an ex-ambassador and having a working relationship with Fujifilm, and at the time was a gentleman called Esli Basson, who's still a very good friend of mine. I made that decision. It wasn't the wrong decision. I did well with that. But coming back, still having, and to answer your question with regards to Sigma, it's working relationships. I work with Gareth, who's a Tudor Tech, who's become a good friend, and they support me. But most importantly, I shoot with a medium format camera that has a 50 million pixel sensor, and the details in the image, the lens system is just beyond brilliant. So for me, moving over to the Sony, Sigma glass is the only glass I would recommend. Overall package, and I'll tell you straight up, the G Master glass is brilliant, but who can afford that glass? No one. And and the Sony ecosystem, lens ecosystem, not strong, so that they have a limited amount of lenses, and that is why, for now, there's a very good working relationship between Sigma E-mount and the Sony system. So one of the biggest reasons is that I couldn't go backwards, Nico. Shooting with the Fujifilm GFX and then moving to a full frame and shooting, I needed to be able to put my best foot forward. And Sigma glass is the way to go. I mean, it's not even a discussion. Guys, I don't get anything free from Sigma, okay? I in fact charge them. Okay, so I'm going to tell you that for me, overall, when you're looking at primes and cost, only way to go as far as Sigma is concerned.
Okay. Yeah, no, I did shoot I enjoyed the 105 and the 70-200. Well, we were out there in the Val in earlier. Was it earlier this year or late last year? Oh, it should be earlier this year. Yeah, so I did enjoy this, so I do concur on that. But yeah, the pricing. No, you teach you're a mentor, you're a teacher. When your students ask you what lens should I buy, I mean, obviously, unlike you, their budget is quite limited. What lens should I buy? What camera should I buy? You have a medium format camera, Sony IR7 IV, which is out of most of our budgets, pockets can reach. How do you advise those your students?
Let me tell you, I advise what best suits the pocket. Okay, but one of the important things I ask is there anyone else in the family that has a camera and certain lenses? And they say yes. I say buy that same brand camera then. I did the same. My father owned a Nikon, And the only reason why I went to Nikon, I knew nothing. The only reason why I went to Nikon because I knew I could loan that lens for wildlife. I could loan. So as a family unit or friend unit, you have support with particular brand, amongst your friends. So again, early on in the show, I have absolutely zero loyalties to any camera brand. Okay, so I do advise the guys look at support. Okay, look at local support. Don't care what the camera can do and how fancy it is. Who are local people, and are they sufficient? Okay, can they do the job? Or if you are in Cape Town, do they have a correct service center in Cape Town? If not, then you got to kind of look. Okay, if you're in George, wherever you are, so backup is important. So at that level, Nico, a camera really is, it's what your pocket suits. So the way I speak to my students is exactly that. How much money do you have?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Also, I'm sure most of your students come to your workshops. Most of them still have DSLRs, as mirror system is still relatively new in the country and a bit pricey when it comes to lenses. Obviously there's so much benefits when it comes to mirrorless. You look at your standard level X-T2, X-T3 Fuji, your Sony A7 III, I think is the most common one, your Nikon Z6, I think that's the bottom of the range in the mirrorless and in the Canon systems. Do you advise them to jump from DSLR to mirrorless? I mean, you've obviously yourself potted into that system.
Yes. This is a controversial one. I honestly, firstly, I've got to tell you and the viewers, I've got no clue how cameras work. I'm not a technical. My son Aiden sets up my camera. I know what aperture I want to shoot at and manual, and that's me. But I don't use any technical gimmicks in any camera. But the controversial thing is, if you own a SLR, you're in a time warp. Okay. And as soon as mirrorless bridge the gap, and they are doing it now, mirrorless will bridge the gap from a money point of view, that you can go for 10. Now you can. Owning an SLR, going right now and buying an SLR, you must have rocks in your head, okay? Because there's no ways, and you can't say, oh, but I don't have enough money, because the pre-owned market on Fujifilm and the smaller A6000, I think the APS-C, Sony's, they're out there, okay? Canon have come in aggressively with more affordable cameras. You buy an SLR now, you're in a time warp. I'm saying it now. The technology cannot compete against a mirrorless system.
What about hybrid systems? I think it was Mav, you can help me here. Which camera came up with a hybrid? Was it a D780?
It was a Nikon.
And
it was a Nikon, I think. D7, 80 or something.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, I've got an opinion there.
Yeah.
Mumbo jumbo on cameras, a hybrid. Let me tell you what that is. We don't have enough time in R&D, but shit, we've got to push out a system. Let's call it a hybrid. Okay. Now, what I'm trained in sales and marketing. That's what I do, and that is a brand going, we haven't put enough in R&D. We're behind in the race. Let's just put this out. It's the same as when that certain brand went from a D800 to a D810, and they said, this is great. What they didn't tell the people was the D800 either worked or it didn't. And that was a storm. So they brought out the D810, they changed one or two things, and they said, there you go, we've given you this new camera. So no, the hybrid, I don't know too much about it, but I can tell you, if the brand could bring out mirrorless and the optimum mirrorless camera, proper mirrorless, they wouldn't bring out a hybrid. Why?
All right. Okay. I hear you. Okay, let's come into Steve as the teacher, as the mentor, as the leader of the pack. Being relatively new, I mean, 2013 to 2020, that would be how many years? 7 years.
Yes,
You've decided to now. Okay, I wanna help people out there. Why
yes.
did you decide on that? I mean, it's very key. Who was your primary target audience when you started this mentorship program? What were the challenges? Who came out of it that today you can point to that guy and say, I'm quite happy that I actually helped that guy
Yeah.
get there?
That's a good question, Nico. Prior to my one-on-one mentorships, let's say, I was doing a lot of talks and a lot of workshops. But as you can imagine, Steve only works with the hottest girls, has the best time. And I can tell you, my workshops weren't cheap. I was charging 2,500 to 3,500 rand per person. And I would have 10, 12 people on set, 4 models. And I found a lot of the photographers were not there to listen to me. They were just there to shoot the pretty girls because
Yeah.
they would never in their lifetime of photography work with the type of models I was working with. So I found a lot of people were missing out because defense, there were a lot of photographers that wanted to learn. So this came about, then I came about with the one-on-one mentorship. And Nico, obviously I monetized it to cover my costs, but I was nowhere near charging what I should have. This was purely for me wanting to give back, but at the same time build my brand. And so for the first year, I built this academy up at very, very, very low costs. And but the beauty here was I still charged enough for the photographer to take it seriously. And the mentorship also was building up that photographer from euro to euro, he's from zero to euro type of vibe. And I then was starting to get less frustrated. There's nothing worse than a guy's giving you a lot of money, attended 2 or 3 of your workshops, and he's still taking crap imagery, and it's showing he's not learning. So the one-on-one was serious. It allowed me to engage with the photographer, and from an educator, teacher point of view, it's very fulfilling when you just up. The person doesn't have to tag me. They don't have to say anything. I know when I look at 6 months ago, I look at the students' images to where they are now. And so, yes, mentioning a few, in the old days, I had DJ Busang, who, DJ and Lungile, they came on my sets. They helped me. They were helping me. Yes, Lungile, yes. And, they helped me on the sets. They weren't taking pictures. They were just there to learn. And it's very fulfilling to see someone like DJ, who's already a very successful businessman. He took his photography seriously, but he wanted to learn specific things. He's a guy now who still calls me. I will call him. Remember, it works both ways, Nico.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, if it comes to his genre, I'm not going to profess to know anything. Not that I would go and shoot a newborn, but if I had to, DJ's the guy I would call and say, "Listen, my brother from another mother, you got to help me." Proud to say that I've had some brilliant students through the academy. Emmy Boy, DJ Lungile, and there's quite a few. There's quite a few photographers that I've seen where we've helped each other.
Yeah. Okay, all right, no, that's great. I don't know anything that you want to add that I didn't ask. I also want to get your addition as well to this.
Yeah. No, look, if you mean from the academy point of view.
From both the topic, all three, with the brand, the teacher, and the photographer.
Yeah, and I think speaking from a brand point of view, just the most important thing is know what you want and stick to it, guys. I see where guys falter is that they are trying to do too much versus your experience level. Someone who's achieved the brand status and who's done well in branding themselves. They've spent time in the saddle, which means they can now start exploring other types of photography and genres. The problem we find is a lot of people are trying to have too many fingers in the pie at an early stage, because there are the millennials that have come in, and it's an instantaneous situation where I want this all now, and their skill set is not there, and that hurts your brand. So stay true to what you want to do. As far as I saw, there was a slide now with me with some tequila.
Yes. I wanted to ask you about that. When it comes to this thing of you were just saying that now you are good friends with the models. If you slap her on the bum, you're quite relaxed in your sets. When to tequila, when not to tequila.
Guys, let me just tell you. It's an interesting story with the tequila. Is that and I brought this up last week. Once again, I control all my sets. All right, everyone. So where you see me live video, tequila, having fun, these are my productions. I am the boss. The people on my set, off camera, are some of my best friends. These are people we travel, we do road shows, we do everything together. So that's circle of trust. So it doesn't mean you can do it, right? So, but also having said that. Yes, I drink on set. It's my set. You can't feed your model. You can't do a collaboration or a paid shoot and encourage alcohol. It is an absolute no-no. You must not do it. Proximity rule. You cannot be slapping your model on the bum. You cannot be doing that. Guys, you need to respect the proximity rule. You need to respect the person that's in front of your camera. Okay? For me, I'm a unique case. The people I've worked with, and it is my brand I'm selling. But I can tell you now, if I'm walking onto a foreign set, I don't even walk up and move someone's hair or a wardrobe, because we have stylists that do that. I will, irrespective of photography, I'm a person that likes my own space as well. Don't come into my bubble. Okay, so you must respect that. Talking about that a while ago, I was actually brought to task with regards to that, and he wasn't wrong.
I wanted to ask you if you've ever been in trouble for some of the way you play around in your own space.
No, I've never been in trouble with the people on set ever, never ever. Where things did change, and it was and I'll tell you now, it was a couple of us old fogies, photographers. We were at the photo and film expo at the Dome, and I was a speaker there. And one photographer, and he wasn't wrong, he came to me and said, "Steve, you know that people are watching you. You've got young and upcoming photographers. They're watching you, and they want to be like Steve. They buy the same camera, they buy the same lights, and they then want to emulate you, and then they go in and they do what you do, not understanding the backstory. So I need to be careful." And he wasn't wrong. But I believe that was then, this is now. So people kind of know. I shoot with, over the last 2-3 years, I've only shot with, let's say, I've only used 4 models in my productions and my brand work. And as of the last year, only Nikki, because that is my decision. That's what I do. And so the people now know it's Nikki and Steve is their own brand. They do whatever. They travel all over the country and they move on. Okay. Yeah. And that's about it. So, guys, yes, careful of the booze. Don't be slapping people on the bum.
All right. I got an interesting question here from Charlene Mashia Bell from Bell Studios. I'm sure you're quite familiar with her. What takes up more of your time? Is it the teaching mentoring, or is it the glamour work, or versus the commercial shoots? What is Steve heavy in?
I think no, the teaching has subsided a bit, because what we've done now, guys, is we've and I've undertaken this project last year. You saw a lot of it with Godox SA, and now towards the end of last year in 2020, prior to our lockdown with Sigma, is that we do road shows and we teach. We do free workshops, right? So the one-on-one mentorship, what I've done is I've only got one program now, and that is for I like two programs for your professional photographer who knows about lighting, which is very expensive, and then the photographer has never picked up a camera before. That has taken a bit of a back step. So to answer your question, Charlene, at the moment, the commercial side, I've been very involved, and you can see it as commercial because I've been very involved with Sigma and Godox and traveling the country. And teaching. I barely get to, in fact, I rarely get to shoot much work anymore. But again, like I said, I get asked 3 times a week, please can you shoot me, Steve? Please can you shoot? And I politely say no. It's not because I'm arrogant. I just, again, choose to work with specific people that work in my genre, you know. So, yeah, Charlene, at the moment, the Godox workshop Sigma roadshow is taking up a lot of my time.
All right, okay, cool. Another just off the cuff question: your most favorite project to date and your hardest project that you've ever had?
Okay, my favorite project was still, and I'm going to go back to it, is the Harley Quinn, man. I loved it, and I had a very sick model, but to me, the whole image came about at the right time. I may even launch another image with a different edit, but from the same shoot. So that to me was my most favorite. My most challenging was actually the last year, towards the end of last year, was the Gold Reef shoot. You know, we were on set for 4 days, and production side 14 to 16 hour work days. So cumulatively, it was very tough. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. I've got one slide here. Matthew, if you wouldn't mind pulling slide 20 and 21, which 20 till 23. Yeah. Okay. You work mostly with live humans, except for the Zanzibar project that we just showed now. You did this nice, beautiful Mustang shoot. This Ford Mustang is at your car, first of all, and how hard was it? I mean, you don't shoot quite a lot of these static objects. How hard was it to produce something like that? I mean, most of us have cars. Can we just take out a light, go over there? What advice would you give to somebody who wants to do automotive photo shoots and try?
Okay, firstly, don't do what you're seeing now, okay? It ain't gonna work. But this was it's not my car. It's my neighbor's car at the wall. And he really wanted to, he said, listen, can you shoot my car? I said, why not? Photography is photography, lights. So, but we didn't have, it's, if you look at where we were and what we needed to do, so I was just being lazy, but I knew we could sort things out in post. But what I did want to do was work out how we bounced light. And you can see the image prior, there was a 8600 with a CTB gel, which is a blue gel, and then my key, all bare bulb. It's all bare bulb. There's no diffusers there. And then the rest was in post. We created a layer mask and away you go, but I knew that. But to give you guys advice, shooting an automobile is very, very tricky. If you go into studio, there's a lot of stitching involved where they'll light the vehicle separately and then create layers and then they'll basically stitch them together. But a lifestyle, this is more of a lifestyle shoot. Find a big open road, nice key light, fill in and shoot,
Oh, cool. There's a lockdown challenge going around social media. People shooting bottles of drinks and things like that. And I just remember that now. And you have this bottle of Hellfire, what advice, Marv, if you would pull that the slide 22, what advice would you give to people who are participating in this challenge? So I don't know if you know about it. It's people just put bottles there and they show the yeah. So
So
what advice?
Yeah, look, your advice is depending, it's how long is a piece of rope. I don't know for me, I'm very blessed. I've got a studio with a Godox light tent. I've got LED panels. I've got V-flats. I've got bounce cards, all this type of thing. So yes, don't overthink it. The bottle challenge was always great is to have, and I'll be very fast with this. I'm not a product. It's not my speciality, but I would have 2 bounce cards, white, so you can edge. Okay, you can create an edge on the bottle, and obviously expose your backdrop correctly. Don't be scared to create a lifestyle type of backdrop. Doesn't have to be a black in studio type backdrop. You can light the bottle with strobes and have a lifestyle sort of in your garden or on sort of in situ shot. So if it's wine, have a wine glass on a table with a cheese board. But from a lighting point of view, don't overthink it, but use bounce cards. So sort of white cards and black cards. Yeah. If strange enough, this Hellfire, what you're seeing in the back is a fire, actual fireplace. I put that, and that was used on one of their campaigns.
All right, no, that's good. That's brilliant. Okay, Jason on the chat room just saying, can we talk about the bank as well? How much did the Gold Reef shoot cost the client? If you are willing to divulge that information.
I won't be exact, but it was in excess of 100,000.
Oh, so that's basically me buying a new camera right there with a nice lens. How much do you get into the pocket? How much of that percentage? You don't have to be specific because you still have to pay your stylists, your models, and things like that. How much do you take back in home? Is it between 5%? Are we going towards the 50% mark, or is it all your money?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can move on.
Okay, so we'll just skip we'll skip that. I think I've asked everything that I wanted to ask, and I'm sure I've answered most of the people's chat rooms questions. Marv, I don't know if you have questions that you want to ask Mr. Steve before he leaves us, and before we start parting with our saying goodbyes. All right, no, that's great. Mr. Steve, on your side, do you want to summarize this interesting chat with you? I'm sure I'm just going to go home. After this, I'm just going to go cry and with I'm not having all that gear that you have. And even if I had it, I wouldn't know what to do with it.
No, I think
so. Any parting words?
Yeah, look here. Firstly, thank you for inviting me to the show. I've always enjoyed you guys, and we can do it again. It's really not a problem. And yeah, parting ways, Nico. Maketh not the man. Okay. So again, this is what it's all about. The camera is a tool, and most of my key work is done with one strobe. So when you guys, if you don't know me, you can look at my images. A lot of my work is one strobe that costs under 15,000 rand. What you can achieve. And yes, once again, thanks for having me on the show. You guys are awesome, and hopefully we can chat soon.
Okay, cool. Where can people find you?
Look, yeah, I love Facebook. So I'm pretty full up on my Facebook. But if you follow me on my timeline, so if you go Steve Castings, don't send me a friend request. I'm full up, but follow me on my timeline. And you can also find me at Steve Castings Photo Academy, and you can find me at Steve Castings Photography. But I very seldom use those pages, to be honest with you. My Instagram handle is at Steve Castings Photo, cannot stand Instagram. Doesn't work for me, but I'm forced to post every now and then. But what I really do want to push, and what you guys will be seeing, is I've finally got my act together with YouTube. So Nico, if anything, it's youtube.com/Steve Castings, my channel. I'm going to be putting a lot of interesting shit up there. I'm telling you now. You can also find, so YouTube is where I want to drive the people. So subscribe on my YouTube channel, and you're going to have a lot of fun content.
You also have a live stream going on every day. Do you want to talk to us about that quickly as a plug as well?
Yeah, it's kind of, now we've moved. I curated content up until our lockdown day. So now we've been extended. It's thrown me into a little bit of a twist. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Every Friday I'll have Craig Anderson, who's a fellow Godox ambassador and fashion photographer and brilliant curator from PE. So him and I are going to be chatting. So this Friday coming up, we're going to be doing gear talk. We're going to be talking about 2 or 3 ranges of Godox gear, the advantages, the disadvantages, the pricing, where to use them, how to use them. So a lot of people might find it a bit boring, but if you're interested and you want to save money and not purchase the wrong gear, Friday 11 a.m. on the Godox SA platforms, on my platform, you will be able to catch me. And then Monday, Wednesday, and Friday until the lockdown's over.
Okay. Don't forget to talk about the AD300 and the AD1200 Pro, please.
Well, I only talk about them when they're on the boat. I can tell you we are expecting them, but obviously with the lockdown, what's going to happen? The boat's going to land in the port and they're going to stay there until the lockdown's over, and then it's through customs. So unfortunately, I would say realistically, we a month to maybe a month and a half up to 2 months away from that.
All right, no, that's great. No, thank you. It has been an honor to have you grace us with your presence and with all that wealth of knowledge. Looking forward to seeing more of you and enjoying your shows as well. And. I don't know. Thank you. That's all I can say.
That's a pleasure.
Been great. It's been it was a challenging interview that we've ever had. We've had great photographers up here come up, and yours was just because I know we've known you as this guy, like you said, that sometimes people tend to look at you as a certain type of a person, but you're actually quite a nice person. I mean, when we were shooting at the Rate My Photo show, and that's when I started seeing the friendly side of you, when you popped up and took over the camera and say, you know what, why don't you try this and that and that. So from then on, that's when I started to see Steve as this really nice person, and who's always out there to teach. Other than that, thank you seriously for gracing us with your presence. And Marv, I think we are out.
Thanks, guys. Cheers, eh?
No, thanks a lot.
Okay, Steve has left. We can queue out.